On. We're going to call to order, please. Roll call.
Commissioner Allen is excused. Commissioner Atwater,
Present.
Commissioner Christopherson,
Here.
Commissioner Griffin,
Here.
Commissioner Trezza,
Here.
Vice Chairman Duffy,
Present.
Chairman Barquette.
Here.
You do have 6 commissioners present. It does constitute a quorum.
Great. So we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is the presentation of the 2022 Employee of the Year Award.
Okay,
Kirk?
thank you. So first, we're going to recognize the recipient of the 2021 Employee of the Year, Everardo Mendoza, who's here. And we're going to present him with his framed portrait that's been displayed in the lobby of the administration building for the
Thank
past
you.
year.
You want to come on up so we can.
It's your first time taking pictures.
You had a. Took you a long time to get this
last
award.
year.
You got No, 21 years here, but
Yeah.
you sat around for the year.
Or
Why don't
IQ.
we balance that
You
out?
got all three now.
IQ.
You got all three now.
All right, ready? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We have one.
Okay, so announcement of the 2022 Employee of the Year. Each year, department managers are asked to nominate employees who, in their judgment, have demonstrated outstanding job performance, loyalty, initiative, and commitment to the Port of Stockton. From this year's list of nominees, I'm pleased to announce that Shafa Rodriguez, Information Technology Technician 2, was chosen as the 2022 Employee of the Year. Shafa has been employed by the Port for more than 3 years. He began his career at the Port as a summer IT intern in 2019. He was then hired as temporary IT help, desk support during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and remained ever since. He was promoted to IT Tech 2 in January 2022. Shafa is being honored for his dedication to the Port. He continuously goes above and beyond by working late, coming in early, filling in during time when you're experiencing a staffing shortage, and moving all around the Port as needed throughout the day to meet the varying needs of the organization. He is always willing to help with a positive and caring attitude and has been an instrumental asset to the IT department. Even as an intern and then later as an IT tech, Shafa has been and still remains instrumental in the success of the IT department by helping with all of the varied activities, initiatives, developments brought about due to changing work environment. He's excelled at learning new things and has greatly benefited the IT department and Port as a whole with our technological enhancements and improvements. Nothing is too small for Shafa, and he approaches each task with the same helpful and professional demeanor, going above and beyond to ensure Port employees receive high level of service each day. Thank you for your hard work and dedication, as well as the shining example you set as a Port of Stockton employee. On behalf of the Board of Port Commissioners, it gives me great pleasure to present the 2022 Employee of the Year Award to Shafa Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, have you taken your portrait? Have you taken your portrait already?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so his portrait will hang for the next year, and then we'll give it to you next year at the same time.
Yeah.
Here's your award.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take some pictures again.
Yeah.
Let's take a picture.
You ready?
Need help in the IT? Let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to recognize the other employees that were nominated. Tim Dearnick, Systems Engineer in IT. Tracy Finucci, Administrative Assistant 3. She was also nominated in 2021, 2020, and 2019. She's in the Maritime Ops Department. Ulysses Gamboa is a lift driver in the Warehouse Division, Maritime Ops. Maria Perez, Senior Accounting Technician. She was also nominated in 2020, 2018, 2017, 2015, 2014, and 2010 in the Accounting Department. Gloria Ruiz is Assistant Property Manager in the Real Estate Department, and Za Yang, Police Officer in the Police Department. So congratulations to Shafa and all the nominees. I appreciate all your work.
Okay, is that?
That's it.
That's it. Perfect. Okay, next on the agenda is the 2023 port reorganization. Board reorganization, not port. Board.
I have news for everyone.
Yeah. Got a lot of changes coming. No. So how do we just announce that? I know we're going to do that. We discussed earlier, I'll finish the meeting. Chairman Duffy will take over at the next meeting.
Correct.
And then
We vote on it.
When you nominate.
You have to have an election.
We vote on it.
Yes.
I nominate him.
Well, you should,
I can't stay? I can't, huh?
You can say, then you say.
You can get the votes.
what we should do is that you should ask for nominations for the chair, and then once all the nominations are closed and there's a vote and a chairman is elected, then you should
Take the next
elect
step.
vice chairman.
Got it.
And make nominations for the vice chair.
With that said, can I get a nomination for the next chair of the commission? We have a nomination. We have a nomination,
If
a
you want it.
second for Mr. Duffy. Any other nominations or anything else to discuss? With that, we'll take a quick vote on it. Or do we? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none? Congratulations,
Yay.
Mr. Duffy. And with that, I will look for a nomination for the vice chair.
Right. And that would be, I think Mr. Atwater's up next,
No.
or is it?
Mr. Duffy.
Bill's up next. I nominate Bill Trezor.
Nomination, I will second the motion. Okay, we have a nomination, we have a motion on the floor to nominate Bill Trezza as the vice chair of the commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposing, none? With that, congratulations. Mr. Trezza, I'll move you to the chair, and with that, we will move on to the rest of our meeting, and next month you will take over. In the meantime, I got some changes to make.
You have 2 weeks to shake.
Yeah. Yeah. So did everybody review the consent calendar? Do we have a motion to approve, or does anybody want to pull any of the items?
Approve.
Second.
You should ask if there's any member of the public who would want to remove them from the consent calendar.
Okay. With that said, is there anybody from the public here who would like to discuss any of the items that are on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to our motion from Mr. Atwater in a second. No, second from,
Melanie, are we broadcasting
No, we're not on Zoom or anything. Well, we're broadcasting on YouTube.
on YouTube? We are.
YouTube,
Okay.
yeah.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, seeing none. Items on the consent calendar have been approved. And we'll move on to our next item, which is informational presentation of the second quarter 2022-23 fiscal year-end financial statements.
Okay, thank you. So Michelle Bowling will be presenting.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'll be presenting the Port's year-to-date financial highlights as of December 31st of 2022. And we'll see if I can. Employee of the, oh, there we go. Okay, thank you, Employee of the Year. Appreciate that. Operating revenues are 4.1 million or 11.7% under budget and 1.1 million or 3.4% under last year for the same time period. Waterborne tonnages are 24.7% less than budgeted and 14.7% less than the prior year period, ending December 31st of 2021, with revenues under budget by 4.1 million or 23.1%. General cargo revenues are 1.6 million under budget and 1.1 million less than the previous year at this time. Tonnages are 46.2% under budget and 4.5% more than the previous year at this time. Cargoes such as auto parts that were shipped through the port as uncontainerized cargo in reaction to longshore labor shortages have reverted back to being shipped via container earlier than staff expected, and staff does not expect these commodities to return.
They were nice commodity.
Bagged sugar tonnages are 100% under budget, but this is due to timing of shipments, so it is a coming. While steel tonnages are over budget, revenues are under budget for two reasons. When forecasting steel revenue, an assumption was made that the port would undertake a certain percentage of terminal truck loading of steel products. However, more steel is discharged directly from the vessel to trucks than expected, which improved efficiencies, but resulted in lower revenues and lower correlating stevedoring expenses as well. Also, the budget was prepared with an estimated increase in stevedoring rates and in anticipation of a new PMA contract, which drives the rates that the port charges for services related to labor. As a new PMA contract has not been finalized, the port is charging customers at the old rate, but once a new contract is made, retro billing will be processed. Dry bulk revenues are 1.4 million under budget and 1.1 million less than the previous year at this time. Dry bulk tonnages are about 14.4% less than budgeted and 14.3% less than the previous year. Low sulfur coal tonnages are 53.6% less than less than budgeted due to significant Class 1 service and performance delays. Dry bulk fertilizer tonnages are 29.5% under budget, as continued drought conditions in the war in Ukraine has led to reductions in acreage planted. Liquid bulk revenues are 1.1 million and 281,000 metric tons under budget. As compared to the previous year, revenues are 484,000 less. Liquid fertilizer tonnages are 58.3% less than budgeted for the same reasons as the dry bulk tonnages are down. Renewable diesel tonnages are 35.1% under budget due to projected delays that are slated for startup in the spring of 2023. Sulfuric acid tonnages are 45.5% under budget due to timing issues caused by a short-term decline in mining activity. Real estate revenues are 0.4% over budget, with lease revenues being 6.1% over budget. West Complex warehousing occupancy is currently at 95.8%, with 100% allocation and a wait list for future availabilities, excluding approximately 110 acres tied to approved and pending projects. Oops.
We ask questions as we go. I guess this is almost for both of you. Do you expect like that reduction to be the new norm? Or was this like more of a 1-year thing? Or were we living in like the 1 or 2 year height of COVID, you know, when we were so busy? So is this the new
I
reality?
think it's the latter. So we had such a great year
Yeah.
that we're kind of back to where we normally were.
So this is more where the
This is more
operating
realistic.
revenues will be realistic moving forward.
Yeah.
I have a question, Michelle. These are 6-month numbers, right?
Yes.
And if you have a maritime customer that leases waterfront property, does that go under the property management, that rent?
Well, I don't know that we have any waterfront property leased.
Or terminals?
I mean, they may have other properties leased, so they might be
Anything
both a
leased,
real estate and,
regardless of the use, goes into property rental?
correct.
Thank you.
Well, go ahead. You want to clarify?
Sometimes there's credits against mortgage, so we actually don't get rent on some of the premises. They're off dock, but it's back to maritime cargo.
There are a couple of those arrangements, yes.
Whatever.
I think Metro leases.
All the waterfront property is transit shed, so those aren't long-term leases.
So, small amount.
Any other questions? No. Go ahead.
All right, so we're on operating expenses. So wages and fringe benefits are 1.6 million under budget, as there are quite a few budgeted positions yet to be filled. Contracted stevedoring expenses are 33.9% under budget. So we talked about the PMA contract not being finalized, so we will, once that's finalized, we will be getting a retro billing to account for the increase. Also mentioned the change in how general cargo tonnages are handled, so that's part of it, and then just overall lower tonnages. Environmental expense is about 25.9% under budget. Remediation efforts on the West Complex are underway. However, as per GASB 49, some costs are eligible for capitalization. So we're going to capitalize as much as we can first, and then anything, once that cap is met, it will be an operating expense.
So, real question, so is that not the real number of actual dollars spent? That's just the expense?
That's just what has been expensed. So within the environmental category, we have West Complex remediation, we have stormwater expenses, and we have other environmental compliance expenses. A big chunk of it could be the remediation expense, and yeah, we're capitalizing it. And we'll see, like I have a slide coming up, and we have spent about $1.7 million that we've been able to capitalize.
So did that budget reflect that? Or did we know that before?
Yes, we accounted for that when we budgeted. We knew how much we were able to capitalize, and so we didn't
Okay,
include it in the
so
expense
that's an
side.
actual reduction off what
Right.
you thought, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside services and consultants expenses is 21.7% under budget. Within this category, engineering and consulting expenses are under budget by 223%. There's a variety of studies and whatnot that were budgeted for that haven't happened yet or have been delayed for various reasons. Utility and telephone expenses are 10.7% under budget. This variance is related to a large power-consuming customer whose project has not fully come online. And port promotion and commissioner's expense is $327,000 under budget, but 6.6% more than the previous year. The variance to budget is due to the timing of trips, and more trips are planned later in the fiscal year. All other expenses, materials and supplies, port promotional expenses, legal, they're all a mixture of higher and lower costs, and overall operating expenses, excluding depreciation, are 19.7% under budget. This is a summary of our cash situation as of December 31st. We have 43.6 million of unrestricted cash, which is an increase of 5.4 million since the beginning of the fiscal year. And this is mainly due to the receipt of grant funding that was owed to us at the conclusion of the last fiscal year, as well as some positive cash inflows from operations.
I have one question on that comment. I noticed in another report somewhere that we keep our cash at the county. We keep our cash at where?
At
Do we
local
have
agency
any
investment fund.
flexibility on that? Because rates are so high and we've got so much cash now, you can get like 4.5% in places like that with that kind of money.
Right.
We should be maximizing.
So I have been purchasing CDs, and I'm getting over 5% on some CDs, and I know that we're limited on how much we can, each deposit can be. Yeah, it's on my list of things to do at some point, to actually go
Like
out and find a.
4 and 5
Yeah.
and above on 90-day treasuries and
Sure.
stuff like that.
Sure.
So just something to look at
Yes,
when you start
yeah.
talking about $40 million.
It's on the to-do list,
It's a
yes.
big number, yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Days of cash as of December 31st was 388 days, which is an increase of 82 days from June of '22. Currently, as of the close of business just this past Friday, the port has unrestricted cash balances of 43.3%, just a slight reduction, which equates to 368 or 86 days. So we've come down just 2 days since the conclusion of the last quarter. Let's see. You got me, thank you. This is why he got the award. So capital projects, net capital assets increased by $948,000. So far this fiscal year, the port has invested $10.3 million in capital assets, most notably dock improvements totaling $4.4 million, the land improvements, which I mentioned earlier, which are remediation efforts, $1.7 million. The police boat launch, we spent an additional $980,000, and various sewer improvements, $592,000. Speaking of capital projects, last Friday, it was emailed to you, and a hard copy was provided to you today, a comparison to budget report. I hope you find that helpful, and if you have any recommendations for improvements to that report, gladly hear them now or later at your leisure.
I have one question.
Yes.
We seem to have, it's okay, a lot of projects are phasing out somewhere in the second half of this calendar year. Should we expect an updraft of an equal amount of new ones that are short to medium term?
There's a few coming, yeah, there's a few coming up.
As much
Some-
volume or just dollars?
I don't know, what's the next project you're starting? Do you think is going to be the next construction project to start? It's on the agenda, so stay tuned. So, let's see. Let me look at the agenda.
This will bring
So,
even
some
more
more
clarity to
birth,
budgeting, Michelle.
some more birth improvements. I'm sorry?
This will bring more clarity to budgeting, I think.
Yes, yeah, it'll be
And a
helpful.
lot of this is timing. Things are just being pushed. So,
Also, you know,
Good job.
some pauses, you know, to seek out some funding opportunities
right.
and
Yeah, I
whatnot.
noted that in your comments. Pausing for funding.
Yeah,
Funding. We know we can get funding for this. It's just when and how much.
how long, yeah,
Yeah.
how long the process is.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and that concludes my presentation. I would like to say on behalf of the Accounting and Finance Department, Mr. Christopherson, thank you very much for all of your service. Your dedication to the port has been very, very much appreciated by staff.
I'm glad I could help out in there.
Yeah,
He knows a lot about inflation.
he does.
Okay, no other questions or comments? With that, we'll move on to number 8, which is, should I read the whole thing? Consideration and possible approval of a categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA. Authorization for port staff to file a notice of exemption related thereto for the port director to award a contract to Vortex Marine Construction for the East Complex sewer line improvements at Roads 2 and A project for an amount not to exceed $1.635 million, and for the project director to award the construction management contract to Dillon and Murphy Engineering for the East Complex sewer line at an amount not to exceed $175,000.
Okay. Juan Villanueva, so we have 3 coming up, but Juan will address each of the 3.
We'll do one at a time.
Construction,
Yes.
one service.
Okay, thank you.
So this project is located on the East Complex. It's a capital improvement program project to rehabilitate the East Complex sewer system. So we have some portions of this project that lie underneath the docks, operating docks. So we're going to have to work around a working dock. The rest of the improvements are along Port Road 2, which is our easternmost roadway on the East Complex Marine Side Terminal, and Port Road A, which is our main goods movement corridor road on the East Complex, Port Road A. Next. So as I mentioned, we're going to be removing and replacing some sewer line that's currently it was installed as a suspended system under the dock. So we'll be going in, tearing it out and replacing that. The rest of the system, that line runs underneath the existing slab of the transit shed, so It'll traverse through there, and then it comes out on the road. On the road side, it'll go under some rail, and then into the nearest manhole on Port Road 2. And then from there, we'll replace the remainder of that system with a cast-in-place pipe. In addition to the construction contract today, we'll be asking the board to approve a construction management contract to oversee the construction. Our construction manager will assist with a multitude of tasks, but mainly survey. They'll survey the site, give controls for the construction contractor, and also process technical questions back and forth, and also inspection. So obviously it's old. The system, the existing system that we're rehabilitating was the system that was constructed when the port was constructed. So it's in dire need of replacement.
Been a while.
Yeah. We try to capture about 10% of the system when we do make improvements like this, and this is approximately that amount. Sorry about the graphics again. I had to do a better job of that, but what we're talking about is the area is the dotted red circle, and then the line is the purple line, which, as you can see, it goes from, I want to say it's berth 4 to berth 3, and then across the road along north-south on Port Road 2, and then east-west on Port Road A. So this is a Public Works process advertised on the 4th. Had a pre-bid conference where the contractors were able to come out and inspect the site, view the work areas, and ask questions. And we went through the Q&A process, answered all the questions, issued addendums to the contract if there were any questions that required changes to the plans. Then we received the bids on February 8th. We received 2 bids, and the low bidder was Vortex Marine Construction at $1.6 million, $35,004.
Big difference.
No. So were those approved plans?
Approved plans, correct.
They were approved by, everything we do here has to be approved by the city?
Yeah, that's
Not for our utility infrastructure, no.
So who approved them then?
We have our own engineers do that in-house.
So,
We do design our systems to city code.
So Dillon and Murphy didn't design that? Our own people designed
They
it?
did. Dillon and Murphy did. And our design is to city specs.
Okay.
is that that large gap in bid, is there any reason for that?
We did have an issue with with the contractors and their bonding capacity. We had about 6 contractors show up for the pre-bid, and we had another project that was bidding the following week. So they kind of opted to bid on that project and not on this project. I would imagine if we had, say, another 2 or 3 bids, they'd be closer to the lower bid. Unfortunately, we only have 2, so.
What's the bonding capacity have to do with that?
They can only, they have to issue a bid bond
Yeah.
for the project. And depending on the size of the contractor, they either have capacity to
That's
do.
not that much. I mean, they should, okay.
Yeah. So the project schedule is 80 working days. We have a CEQA exemption action today, and it's also financed through our 22-23 budget.
Gotcha.
Next one. So staff recommendation is to adopt the CEQA exemptions 15301 and 15302, and authorize the Port Director to award the contract per Public Contract Code 20751 to the lowest bidder, the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder in the amount stated, and authorize the Port Director to award the contract to Dillon and Murphy Engineering for construction management.
Okay, is there any questions from the commission?
Are there any completion clauses in that? Timing, do they have how many days to complete or complete by a date? certain?
Yes, we have liquidated damages for substantial completion and then final completion. We used to list those in our memos, but we stopped doing. But we'll put those in the next one.
So I have a quick question on the construction management agreement. Do we have like weekly or monthly meetings out here on a consistent basis? Dillon and Murphy runs them. You do your RFIs and all that stuff.
Once a
and
week,
yeah.
every week.
Yeah. Okay. And they run them, or our staff runs them?
We do it together. Yeah.
Okay. With that, do we have to restate that in motion, and
No.
we could?
I move that we adopt the recommendations of staff. We can do it that way, all three, correct?
Have a motion. You should know that after 24 years.
Well, I think I do.
I still haven't learned it after a year. So. But,
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the staff's recommendation. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Move on to number 9, the next presentation. You want to?
Do you want me to go through this?
Would we have to state it again for the?
Say, you can just call item number 9.
Yeah, item number 9, without having to repeat.
Move for approval?
Come on, we're not in that much of a hurry.
Okay, one.
So this is
Kind of a cool picture.
this is another capital improvement program project. This is fire system improvement on the West Complex, and we'll walk through this project really quickly. This project consists of replacing 6,000 linear feet of our auxiliary water system. The port's water system is separated, so we have an auxiliary. Our fire system is independent of our domestic water system, so there's 2 separate systems. We have approximately 5% of that system that we're recommending to replace today. It's about 118,000 linear feet. After this phase of the program, we'll have approximately 90% or the remainder of the system to replace if it needs replacement, after we go through and do our inspections and our due diligence to go through and recommend those to the board. Same as the other project, we're recommending the Dillon and Murphy do the CM on this construction project. The next one. So this system has problems. We have a lot of line breaks, specifically to the north, to the lines that run north-south. The Navy, when the Navy had the system back in the day, they replaced in the mid-'80s a lot of the east-west main lines that run along the warehouses. The rest of the system has not been improved, so we're recommending to start that process and hopefully continue on as we're doing more and more inspections as we go through the program.
So, I'm sorry,
ahead.
just so I understand that, we're only doing 10% of the whole line now? Is that what that means? At the bottom there?
What we're trying to do is take manageable bites of the system. If we were to do more than that, we'd be taking down a large side of that system. So
Right.
what we try to do is not only minimize disruption, but also not bankrupt us.
Right.
This type of work is very expensive, and we try to maximize our dollars when we can.
I just wonder, did we look at, because we're gonna have to engineer it every time and mobilize every time, right? Is that what, I mean, that's, I wonder how much more we're gonna pay. You know, I mean, are we literally gonna do this over the next 10 years? 1.5 million a pop, is that what we're
Probably not.
talking about?
We're probably going to do. We anticipate we'll probably do about 4 phases of this, approximately about the same, and then the rest of the system is probably going to be okay for a while.
What percentage of the system what percentage of the 118,000 feet has been inspected?
All of it.
All of it's been
Yeah.
inspected, so
Yeah.
you know where your significant deficiencies are, you're attacking it in some kind of priority fashion?
Correct.
And 4 phases approximately?
Approximately. So our system, our auxiliary water system is fed through our pumping system that's on the docks. And then the auxiliary water system is distributed throughout the island. The phase that we're talking about today is the main corridor on the marine terminal. It's Embarcadero. And then we're going to connect that to a loop that system to an existing fire line that was upgraded by one of our tenants. And then that system will connect to the southern warehouses on the West Complex. That system is also fed through Daggett Road, and it's fed through Hooper. So this is a redundancy that we're designing into that system in case of a failure on the other connection points. We don't have a single point of failure on the southern portion of our island and those tenants that are south of 5th Avenue.
Is there a leak rate on that right now? You know how much water's being lost right now?
None.
None?
No. What we have right now is the areas that have problems have been isolated. So yeah.
Okay. So
it's the usual procedure, public bid, pre-bid, and then we see bids on the 9th. Low bidder was DR Pipeline at $1,596,304. A little bit closer grouping on the bidding here. I believe we received 6 bids, and they were all closer to the 1 and the 2.
Mountain
Excuse me,
Cascade
they
was
were-
pretty high, weren't they?
What was that?
Mountain Cascade was pretty high.
Yeah, they were. You go to the next one. So this project is 100 days. We do have a CEQA exemption, and we're recommending finance through our 22-23 budget. Staff recommendation today is adopt CEQA sections 15301, 15302, award low bidder per PCC 20751, and also award construction management to Dillon and Murphy Engineering.
So I'm not picking on Dillon and Murphy, but last time it was like 10%, so I figured it was like, that was their general fee, 10%. This time it's like 15 or something. Why is that?
It's a different project.
You know?
It's longer.
Maybe 100 days
Different type of
versus 80.
system.
That
different
20
types of
days- the 20
inspections.
days extra,
As opposed to 80, yeah.
Anthony?
Huh?
20 days extra, maybe?
So it's time sensitive, time limited.
It's time and complexity, I'm assuming.
I don't know about
It's not apples to apples.
Yeah.
So Juan, can you go back
Share
to
your
the,
concerns. I share your concerns, so.
To the map.
I use them. I like them.
so our main thing is the purple line?
Yeah.
Is the yellow line that one that you said the tenants put in?
Yeah, they I want to say it was UP. They have a rail yard out there, and when they
saved
they
us some
constructed
money.
their yard, they upsized that system,
Okay.
so.
So then, in the future, you're gonna be heading down east-west on those streets to service the rest of those
Yeah,
buildings?
yep.
It's nice that that tenant did that.
Very nice, yes.
Are they acting like a utility and trying to charge us?
Another reason why, we undertook these specific improvements is we have potential tenants coming in
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that,
to that side of the
Properties are
base, and we
sold.
also have some prospective tenants coming into the southern portion of the island, so.
so when both phases, say 5, 10 years, they'll have a pretty long life, all these new water and sewer systems.
Yeah, these systems are just like the systems out here. They're as they were constructed when
No, I
they put it in
mean,
the
going
base.
forward, the new stuff will last for longer than the old stuff, I hope. I mean, we won't be around.
It should. The old system is all steel.
Right. This
Yeah.
is- but PCP.
Is that what it is now?
is still-
Okay, any more questions?
Now? Move to approve item 9,
As written.
As
as
written,
written.
as written, yes.
What's the second?
Second.
Thank you.
I just have one comment, is that I'm gonna vote yes. I'm not in a position, but I do question why we didn't see the whole thing, and I'd kinda like to understand why we're only doing, that one part. I know we said it was that much, but it's only this one's 1.5 million, and it's gonna be in 4 phases. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't know why, if that's something that we need to do, that.
You do all 4 phases at once.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what those numbers are, and I don't know if I didn't see a complete kind of picture of the problem. I'm not gonna get into the details. I don't know. I take staff's, word for it. But when I hear that about cutting it up that much, there's a lot of mobilization. It's a lot of, it's a lot of overhead to do 4 projects when you can do, 1. Now if we don't need it, we don't need it, but it sounded, I thought it was gonna be like a much bigger number, is what I thought, because we had a huge capital budget, which we didn't spend a lot of it this year, so just a point. But, with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? Okay, let's move on to number 10.
Okay, one.
Last one. So.
Ron, you're doing great.
So this is our O&M services agreement for our electric utility operator. So you can go to the next slide. So we've had this contract for oversight of the utility system since about 2009. That was about the last time we put it out on the street. The initial agreement was a 3-year, and then every 3 years we've been renewing it. Last year we did not. So last year we just we opted to do a month to month. So this year we're bringing it back as an annual, and our intent is going forward to renew this contract on an annual basis. So this contract covers our entire electric utility system on the West Complex. This includes labor, equipment, and materials. Also, it includes inspections, emergency on-call service, and this is a 24/7 contract. Just go to the next one. So I'll just run through these really quick. That's where our substation is located. It's on Hooper Drive, adjacent to the West Complex security gate. The next one. Our our system is mainly divided into four electrical circuits. There's one circuit that handles the maritime side, and then the other three circuits handle our tenants. This setup allows us to, minimize potential disruption. Say if one circuit goes out, it doesn't take everybody out. And we have the ability to hop circuits. So if we have something that goes wrong with one of our circuits, we're able to, not we, but our O&M contractor is able to manipulate our controls and bring that circuit back online. The next one. So we have written down here. Our electrical system, all in, it's about 110 linear feet of distribution lines. It's about like 20 miles or something like that. It's a lot. Every single corridor on the West Complex has some sort of distribution system on it. The next one. We have about 40 switches throughout the system, and this is what enables that manipulation of that system to be, to be able to jump from circuit to circuit. Go to the next one. Transformers, we have about 140 transformers. These are pole-mounted transformers and also pad-mounted transformers. These are utility poles. We have about, I want to say it's about 600 poles. The bulk of our system is aerial. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of poles out there. So as I mentioned, this contractor has been our O&M contractor since the inception of the utility system. It's 24/7 on call, and they are local. It's a Stockton-based firm, which is great. And they've also just recently constructed the second transformer on the West Complex, and now we have two. We have a redundant system in that aspect as well. What more can I say about that? Financing, we're proposing to finance this through the revenues that are collected through the rates. So this is covered through that budgeting process. And the breakdown for the charges are listed. They have the annual base support charge, labor, and materials, equipment, storage, etc. As they go through the process, they draw down on these amounts. So every month they send us something, and they draw down on those three charges. We get invoices, and at the end of the year, we'll be at zero. So this is 1 year. This is the requested action today to authorize the contract for a 1 year term.
So I was a little confused. What did we do last year?
We did not renew the contract, so we did a month to month.
So last year we were on a month to month. And what's the cost difference on
It's the same cost.
Same cost.
Yeah.
What was the reason to go from one month to month to a year? Did they prefer it that way?
It was a staff allowed the contract to lapse, and here we are.
No problem.
So Warner, are they just on demand or are they on site all the time?
On site.
They're good. They're here
Here?
most of the time, yeah.
All those people, linemen and all those?
Yeah, I believe they're building 809.
So it's home away from home.
Yeah, they're in a section of our warehouse, one of our warehouses out here. All their equipment and everything's there.
So if they're not, are they always working on something? Really?
Pretty much.
I only do what I do at home. I have no idea.
I know, that was kind of my question, that it needs that constant
Yeah, essentially,
problems?
essentially they're an exception. They're an extension to our.
Electrical utility.
So what they do is like what the PG&E crews do out.
That's
PG&E
correct.
doesn't. circle.
So you said 118,000
business park
feet,
or
right?
every, you know,
Linear, of- just like the
neighborhood
water.
every
Those
day.
are our lines, yep.
Calling
Yeah, our facilities, facilities division, we do have electricians
Yeah.
in our shop, but they do not work on that system. The only work our facilities electricians do is after the meter.
What are they delivering? Is it phase 3 or is it general? What kind of power are they delivering?
It's 12,000, it's high voltage.
Heavy, heavy?
And this is plus like transformers and things like that. Plus if a pole has to be replaced, they bill us additional for parts. So if this is the labor portion and
It's everything pre-meter.
Correct.
Seems like a lot to me, you know, but I
They
guess
got,
I don't
they
know.
got boom
It's
trucks they
not
gotta
cheap.
use.
That guy was selling the electricity.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it just, must be in bad shape, right?
Well, there's just a lot of attending that has to take place. Port's a big place, and a lot of the stuff's old.
I mean, the core is new, right? The power
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of the
Everything else has been
connections
there.
and.
you got 600 poles, 140 transformers, and 120,000 feet of overhead, 12,000 volt. Lot to wear out there.
Yeah.
Now, if someone hits a pole, like if a truck hits a pole, obviously we bill them, right? We have a rate we bill them for B&W's time, right?
That's right.
And replacement costs of all that infrastructure as needed. Okay.
Nothing ever gets bumped into.
Okay, any question?
I think on a separate note, just concerning that we didn't catch this through either our vendor management or our contract management. So the contract was missed last year, and that's why we.
It was a 3-year, it was a 3-year that went, it was a 3-year that
It
went month
was-
to month, so it evergreened
yeah.
into a month to month. And it just wasn't
So I'm
renewed.
just gonna say I'm concerned if vendor management or contract management didn't pick that up, because we've got a ton of contracts.
Well, understood, yes.
And we've decided to go on a year-to-year basis because is that more advantageous for us, or is it more work, or can we maybe lock in something on a longer basis that would be better for us, maybe less,
Was it
lower-
Brockman Woody's
Yeah,
decision? They wanted to go 1 year?
that we've been doing the 1 year for probably the last 5 years or so.
So it doesn't mean we won't look at going longer, so that's
Yeah.
something we'll address.
The initial was like a 3, and I think it was our previous director wanted to do 1 year.
and they don't do any design or engineering on top of that? Bachman Woody doesn't do any design or engineering on top of that, they're just out there doing field work,
We
repair,
have
et cetera?
we have an on-call electrical engineer that works with our O&M contractor and the port for different things.
So it's a maintenance agreement, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Did we bid it or no?
Many moons ago, like in 2009,
We've been working with them forever, but.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had about 6 prospective bidders at the time, and we only got the 1 bid. I think it was just too much for a local.
The advantage is institutional knowledge of all the equipment.
Sure.
They know where everything's buried with electrical. If you don't know, somebody new coming in would just probably cost you twice as much, and they wouldn't know where all the bones are buried, so to speak, in the electrical system. So that's an advantage. The disadvantage is that you don't have a lot of competition for your business.
Yeah, essentially their pricing has been fixed since 2009. The only thing that we're paying for is their escalation on labor,
Yeah.
because they're a union. I want to say up until about 3 or 4 years ago, they started putting in some inflationary rates.
I know all rates have gone up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's why I was surprised that's why I was surprised it was the same. When we went month to month over the last year, that surprises me.
Yeah.
It was a high inflationary year, incredible year. Surprised they did.
Yeah, if they bought a lot of supply, heavy duty.
They think they're making a ton. They're making a ton. They-
Yeah.
If I don't take my
They are.
pricing in 5 years, what if I, I got a lot of padding, right?
So when we became a utility,
Excuse me.
we brought this feature in because we have to maintain it. It's ours, right?
Correct.
It's- We're making money, I hope, on it. Collecting more than we're paying out.
It's not a lot, but yeah.
Well, that's not the case. We don't bill that out time. That's part of our overhead
No, but
to
we-
maintain it.
We get reimbursed for the electricity.
Yeah, but that's just like how you manage your, it's how you manage your own shop, though. It's not like that's a cost plus deal that we,
Right.
right? If we spent less, we'd make more.
Right.
Right, the rates are the rates. Yeah,
Well,
so,
we do periodic rate adjustment based on our cost of operation and our cost of acquiring the power initially.
Correct.
And how often do we
You only
adjust that?
pass on the direct cost of the power, no,
That's such a yearly.
Yeah, annually.
okay, any other conversation or commentary or questions? With that, is there a motion out there?
There's public.
I make a motion to approve.
Pardon me? Somebody from the public wants to speak on this matter?
We just have to check.
Oh, no, okay. Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Make a
We
motion
have a
to
motion
approve.
from Mr. Griffin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion is second. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, move on to committee reports. Do we have any committees this? Okay. Committee reports? Mr. Duffy? No?
Sir.
Mr. Atwater, are we on a committee? This,
I was on the budget committee.
okay,
I guess I have just a couple thoughts about, this report, this new report about our expenditures and everything. That provides a ton of information.
yeah.
Go cross-eyed after a while staring at it and trying to figure it out. But, next budget review period is going to have, we straight-lined a lot of stuff, and you can see by the blue lines, that they're all kind of curving down. We're kind of making some assumptions that weren't really maybe well thought out. And, have to look at it with a little bit more critical eye. I tend to want to go conservative. I know I just completed some budgets corporately, and you kind of want to look at them as conservatively as possible. And we have a lot of great things coming to the port, but we need to make sure that we're looking at them conservatively.
Okay. By that, you mean what? That we said we were gonna spend more than we did, or vice versa?
Our revenues are down
Yeah.
significantly. Probably should have picked that up, although this is my first budget review, but probably should have picked up that revenues were gonna drop a little bit this year, and business is changing, and we look at things in the future, maybe that'll change, maybe we'll have some different curves, but, when you have straight line budgets, maybe need a little more thought.
Okay.
Budgets aren't usually straight line. So, that's just my budget committee comment.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say for the committee, we've had staff changes over the last 3 years, both those creating, and so there is a difference, a little different feel to the budget, and it takes a minute to find your way around to go further with that. So it's been a good work from the staff. I've worked with them before and currently, but it isn't.
A huge amount of detail from the staff. I can't comprehend the amount of detail that work that the staff puts in on the budget.
Sounds like you're auditioning for the budget committee for
No.
next year.
I'm just thinking this, the crystal ball is a little bit different, so.
That's one thing we need to address, and it'll probably be the first thing we need to set up an ad hoc for budget and audit. So if we can do that before next meeting, that would.
Just to follow up on that, I appreciate this. I think I was the one that kind of asked for this budget, the capital budget thing, and it's tremendously detailed. I'm not sure even I understand it, to be honest with you, a lot of it, but I appreciate that effort, and it's very, very detailed. And this would be something to see, to your point, on an ongoing basis to to kind of compare not only the revenue side, but what we thought we'd be spending and why it's pushed out. And it has good notes in the side there, but, you know, what's the rationale behind it too, you know, so,
Huge effort from staff on that.
Yeah.
It was to look
a
at
lot
that
of
and say,
work,
wow,
a lot of work.
yes.
No committee report.
Steve, no committee report. Bill, committee report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the port director's comments.
Okay, just a couple of things. I'd like to add my thanks to Commissioner Christopherson. I only got 2 of your 24 years, but I do appreciate
They were the best.
your experience. Yeah. So I do appreciate that as well, and I know we're going to address that later. But one thing, we did have one retirement, and Will, it's Charles Piggy. He is with Local 6. He was hired in 1978. He's not here today, so we're going to try and get him here for a future meeting. So 45 years and just recently retired. So hopefully we can get him in the next meeting or two and then do a proper presentation. So
Okay,
Long Shore, and see.
other than that,
Local 6, so maintenance.
yeah, sorry, maintenance.
Oh, maintenance.
Talk about loss of institutional knowledge. It's a big deal.
that's it, no questions or anything?
30 years.
I had one question, I think on the report that we got about how many, and I think we touched on it. We seem to be getting the same amount or even more ships, but the tonnage is down pretty significantly. What's
Cargo
going on
dependent.
with that?
A lot of
Is
it's
it-
cargo dependent. We were down one vessel. Well, 2 vessels. We did get 1 barge where we didn't have that last time this year, but a lot of it's cargo dependent.
So it's just random, then
Whether
that would be the
it's-
case?
yeah.
Cause it looked like over the last year, seemed like this last year, we had the same or even more ships as the year before, but the tonnage was down.
Yeah, if you have a total, just a complete bulk vessel, you might have, 35,000 tons, where you may not on a steel vessel
So
or
there's
something.
no
that has-
economic reason for it, just, okay, that's it. Okay, move on to commission comments. Commissioner Duffy?
I have comments today. I
do.
think to start off, I'd like to thank Anthony for the great job that he's done this year as chair. We kind of threw him right into it as a new commissioner, a newer commissioner. And I appreciate your stint at the helm. We've got a lot done this year, and it kind of set us up for our future, which I really appreciate because we've had a lot of good, positive change, and I want that to continue. But thank you for your leadership in making that happen.
Thank you. I
for
still
us
get
this year.
scolded by Steve and Melanie for not following the script, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Takes 2 years to get that.
So you figured out how to ignore Steve? and
both.
listen to Melody?
Both.
I just wasn't sure what the trick was. So you can share it with me later.
That for years.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I'm not good at,
you can
Thank
share
you.
the trick later.
Thank you.
And then I just want to, 24 years, I want to move to Gary, 24 years. I was trying to figure it, was it 20, 22, 24? I hear, and the last 2 years have been the best?
Well, that's what I told him.
You know, David talked about institutional knowledge. I know when I first came aboard, you feel really handicapped. And I have to thank Gary, because Gary took me in and he showed me the way. And often we look to people that have been here longer than us. But Gary really came in when the port was a different place, a completely different place. And the amount of change over those 24 years is huge. I remember when I was younger and looking at the port, there was always animosity, or there was like conflict all the time. And I have to thank the director, previous directors, but really the commissioners too, for making that animosity kind of disappear. And Gary's always had a good way of, a gentleman and a scholar, but a good way of making all sides heard and getting us to a resolution. So your institutional knowledge has helped me greatly in my work here at the port, but your time here at the port has just been filled with dramatic change, all for the better. And I appreciate your service to all of us,
Thank you,
but
Mike.
your service to the people of Stockton too. Thank you, sir.
Nice.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
hanging in there, and I'd like to be able to call you in the future if I have some questions.
Yeah, feel free. I've changed that line, but you go ahead.
Mr. Atwater?
those are my comments right there.
Okay. Would you like to wait to hear everybody else's comments, or you want to go
I
now?
don't, I'd be afraid to do that.
Okay.
I have a few comments, if I
Yes.
may. I'll be as brief as I can, and not take up people's time. I wanted, kind of two parts. I wanted to thank and acknowledge people here who work here that I've come to know and watch, and who deserve some recognition, I think. And then, second, maybe mention a couple of lessons that I've observed, some of which have been touched on, and that I think may help in the future. As to the staff, Kirk, you're doing a good job as far as I can tell, and your future is promising, and so is the port, and I think that's good to see. You're one of the only two people here who can claim a military academy background. Maybe others don't know. Rick went to Annapolis, did you not? West Point. How about that? And also, you two guys can still wear your uniforms, I think. My Army uniform doesn't quite fit anymore. I can still wear the helmet. But I don't do that too often. Yeah, so thank you for your service. Melanie Rodriguez has been a great assistant to all of us, I think, and thank you, Melanie, for all that you do. Jason Cotindoy, I like your reports and your leadership, and it's been very helpful. Katie Milder, it's been a delight to see you grow in the office, Deputy Port Director, no less. And besides being a very pleasant person, it's very, very reassuring to see you grow. Jason Cashman, I haven't worked with you as much, but I get the reports and see what you do. Jeff Wingfield, I understand you have something to do with the environment here. And we seem to be staying out of trouble with that, so congratulations on that, and thank you. Also, many of you probably already know, he hits a very long ball. Man. Which probably reflects a misspent childhood, but sorry. Who else? Oh, Michelle Bowling, most importantly, not to miss. Michelle has done a great job as Director of Finance and Accounting. She's grown and developed, and I think served us all very well. And I'm sorry to hear, you're probably all sorrier to hear that she's retiring. It's a much more sorrowful thing than my retiring. You're going to be here, what, 150 days, something like that?
150 days.
Who's counting? But thank you, you've done very well.
Thank you.
Rhonda Nelson, I've just gotten to know, and I don't really have any chance to work with you, and I won't get that, but I see you're well qualified and very promising again for the port. Sylvester Aguilar has served us in two ways. He was commissioner before, and now he is director of marketing for real estate, I guess. Is that, and Sylvester.
Promotion there.
What's that? Take it. Sylvester is very knowledgeable in the community, very knowledgeable of real estate. I first knew him when I was the director at Union Safe, and he was an officer there, and he was always well regarded there. And so I think it was a good a fit for the port when he came here. Who am I forgetting? David. This guy knows computers too. I've had occasion to learn from him. Not enough to fill the job, but at least to know something about it. I'm forgetting some. Wen Wan, who's done so much for our facilities. And I think those are the main people, aren't they? There's many more who've done a good job, but those are the ones we see the most, rely on the most, and I want to thank them for what they've done. Just a couple of words on what I saw, and Mike is right, when I came here, it was quite different. The first meeting I attended, I have to say, was more exciting than this one was. and not in a good way. When I was asked to apply, and I didn't know anything about the port, and I was pretty busy, as I always have been with my law practice, but I thought it sounded worthwhile and interesting, and I did do it, and it was those things. But it was a pretty dysfunctional commission. It was pretty wild. This room, the first few meetings, I said, what am I getting into? Because there was shouting and contention, and arguments over some of the craziest issues. There were cabals, there were, the director too was not above this. I mean, he kind of used people for the sake of getting his way on things. And usually the dispute that I could see was over who went on trips. So it was not the world earth-shaking things they were deciding. That changed over time with a lot of reasons, but one of which, that director left after 2 years, then we had a new one, and also commissioners changed over the years, and that by and large, the choices were better made to the point now where I'm proud of this commission. I think everybody here represents strong, solid life experience, common sense, business experience. And so I'm optimistic about how things are going to proceed in the future. The changes over these years have been incremental. They haven't been major changes. I think that's often the best way. You, step by step, get better and maybe not take too big a leap if you don't know how to do it. You're going to find that out, I guess, with Lathrop. If it's too big a leap and how quickly you do it, it's turning out to be a bigger thing than I think we all thought when we first heard about it. I mean, Rough and Ready was not easy, but Lathrop offers even more challenge, I think. Steve, you were here then, Rough and Ready, and you remember all the issues that we had to go through to make that work. The difference in port has been well commented on. Then it was not much cash, poor infrastructure, poor structure, poor buildings, and I remember getting a tour, asking for one, and I saw a lot of buildings that were derelict, run down. What's the purpose of these? Not occupied. And I asked of a person who will remain unnamed, but he's not here. What's the plan for these buildings? And I was told, well, no plan. It's not worth it to. I said, what about just tearing them down and preparing sites, making things presentable? He said, it's too much trouble. That was the answer. It was too much trouble to tear buildings down, and or to create a site. And those are the words I was told. So that reflected the attitude at that time, I think, for a brief period of time of what was going on. That's not true now. The future is looked at, and everybody does their best to plan the future. Though, as we've observed, it's very tough to predict to give predictions, especially about the future, so everybody's guessing. The morals, I guess I would think from all that is that everybody ought to take pains as commissioners to be heard and to allow everybody else to be heard before a decision is made, and not try to push things through. Just hear it out and have your vote. That was not being done initially. I think another moral may be to always apply the right standards to the decisions that we have to make. A lot of times we all get pressure from outside forces, politics, business people, whatever, to make a certain decision, to approve a certain lease, to bring somebody in here. And I think we all have to be very careful that if we got that we don't listen to improper outside influence that doesn't serve the interests of the port. Instead, we apply to me, the gold standard is this decision. What decision is in the best interest of the port? Period. And that makes it a lot easier, in putting things aside. So I think those are my main thoughts. I am proud of the commission, proud of the port and of the staff, and it's a much improved place and with more promise in the future. I think that's all I can think of.
Very impressive. Thank you.
Fantastic, Gary. Well, as always, it's hard to top Gary. But I have a couple comments, obviously. When I first came on the board, Gary was on the board, so was Steve. And like anybody new, especially for me, I'm just a small businessman, longshoreman, I didn't know what to expect. So I was like going, oh my gosh, what's this going to be about? And Gary, you were very instrumental, as was Steve, into mentoring me on how to go over these reports, how to look at things. I've always admired how you would look at a lease and sort of pick off things that maybe weren't quite right, and always had good recommendations to make to the staff. That, I think, I'll miss that, and I'll miss you being here, of course. Been with you for, what, almost 14 years now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
time.
a long time. Yeah, long time. And Gary's always had the best interest of the port at heart, like I think all of us do. And there wasn't really much animosity when I came on. Maybe a little bit. I don't see any of that now. I think we all work together very well together. And a lot of that is because of Gary's stewardship. So I really
Everybody's doing it.
really appreciate
way, I think.
your service. Also want to thank Anthony. Great job of sharing. Wonderful. Mike's gonna be questionable, but I don't know. I'm just kidding. What?
I'm gonna be questioned.
Oh, just a joke there. But no, Gary, you will be missed a lot. So thank you again for your service, and appreciate it.
You're welcome. Can I meet you now Monday nights afterwards?
Absolutely, buddy. You better believe it. And then just a quick wrap up. The PMA and ILW negotiations were stalled for a while. There were some NLRB situations that had to be resolved. Those have all been taken care of. I understand benefits have been ironed out. They're dealing with Section 1 of the contract. And it sounds like, oh, Section 1, but that's the biggest part of the contract. So once they get onto that, I hear things are going smoothly, as smooth as they can go in these situations. I haven't heard of any other, major disruptions. It's just going to take time. But the NLRB held this up for about 6 months, or at least 5. It's a long time. So those have been resolved. But again, Gary, thank you so much
Welcome, thank you.
for your friendship and your stewardship. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll start with the best, you.
Who?
You. I'm not gonna repeat everything. It's pretty
Good,
much on
good.
spot. You and I have been friends for a long time, I think.
You liked it when I knew a
can
few
bribe
Italian
you-
words.
I can bribe you with meatloaf to pick your brain. He likes meatloaf at El Rancho. But anyway, thank you, Gary. You're very fortunate to have seen that metamorphosis, which has been a good one. I used to watch it from outside over at the Eating Club and as a banker, and the port has come a long, long way. You guys are a big part of it. Commission's a big part of it. I'm thrilled to be part of it. I waited till I was just about to stop working so I could spend time doing something here, or trying to do something, get something done. So you're not getting off the hook. And I hate to say it, there's no way you can lose people like Gary, Steve, Michelle, with so much institutional. It's hard. It's hard to keep that. It goes with the person. So we'll get there. I mean, everybody does. But
Yeah.
that's just a truism, I think.
Monday nights, Dave won.
So anyway, I do have, and Anthony, hopefully I can be as smoother than you, and Mike, I'll be watching you so I can just get ready to practice. But it's a good team, I like it, I'm happy. But a couple things I do have to mention. I will not be at the COG meeting. I alerted the COG, I'm not sure if anybody wants to sit in this Thursday. Secondly, I think most of you knew Dave Buccolo. He passed away. He used to be, he managed the CCTC line, whatever it is, or he was running the trains or something. And the reason I know is because I found out after I met him here. I flew home one time and my father picked me up with his dad. His dad had a livery business. I had no idea
Wow.
that our families knew each other. So I got to be good friends with Dave.
That's
It's
cool.
interesting. I want to share with you something that's been pinging at me from the public, business people from all over the county. As there's a lot of comments and curiosities why, the way that either the charter or the navigational law, you have to live in Stockton. I'm not complaining, I'm just bringing an alert. And I think if we do finally get lucky and get sharp and start working, it may liven up that conversation, just a heads up. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about, if we have are we having a closed session? Okay, I'll reserve my comments on the port project. They changed it, it's now the
Tradeport, California.
Tradeport, California.
First time I've been able to come
Not
up
the
with that.
inland port, they changed the name, so, but anyway,
Tradeport,
Trade.
Tradeport, California.
TPCA. So anyway, that's my comments, a lot more than usual, but it's been great, Gary. I will lean on you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss you.
Harry, you want to comment?
I forgot, it was implicit in what I said, but I wanted to compliment you too, Anthony, in conducting the meetings. And you're a newbie and you acted like you'd swum there in that water forever. And Michael, I know you'll do well. You've got a lot of experience in such things, so things will go well.
Thank you.
Depending on
So-
who the new chairman, new commissioner is.
Just on my comments, on my 1 year stint, I want to thank, Melanie and Kirk and Katie and Steve and really all my other commissioners too. I was new at it. I've been on a lot of boards, never been on a public board like this, so I tend to be informal sometimes, and everybody kind of helped me to get through the processes that we have to do things here, and I've enjoyed it, and I learned a lot, and hopefully if I'm around later, I'll maybe do better the second time around, but I want to thank staff and the rest of the commissioners who kind of guided me. And Gary, I don't want to reiterate everything that has been said. I've only been on for 3 years, but I have so much respect for just the diligence of which you carry yourself and the way you handle yourself as a commissioner, for being on for that long. So for 24 years, so you'd already been on for 21 years, but you painstakingly pour through the whatever is on the agenda. You have detailed, important comments, always relevant things to bring up. You're going to be missed, I have to say. I mean, everybody brings something different to the commission. You bring a tremendous, not only as an attorney, but your involvement in the community and so forth, and kind of like a, moral guide, for the port. So you're going to be missed, and
You guys are killing me.
No. So, with that, we will move on to, we have closed session now? Yeah. See?
Public comment.
Public comment.
Public comment, is that even before the closed
Yes,
session?
yes.
Oh, it is.
Got him again.
Okay, do we have anybody? Okay, here we do
Hey,
have
I'll
some public
sneak in,
comments.
as usual. Hey, Steve.
Oh, my goodness.
Gary,
I didn't know you were here. I would have left earlier.
I snuck in. Gary, you've heard people tell you to your face how great you are. But
Never heard that before.
if you knew behind your back what is said about you and your accomplishments and what you've meant to this commission,
Thank you.
I'm retiring this year too. But
I'll give you my precedence for retirement.
well, and I'm just a pockmark to the void that you're going to leave. So thank you again. Labor appreciated you. And to hear you guys express how you perceive him, that's great. So putting that behind us, a couple quick items. I'm working out on 5 and 6. The roof is blowing off of 8 and raining down on the dock. We had probably a 10 by 20 foot section of tar paper and steel flashing. Came out on the road as somebody was passing by. So and interestingly enough, I just texted one of my coworkers, hey, cover for me while I'm over here at the commission meeting. And here was the reply, and it always bothers me, but I said, I'm at the Port Commission meeting, and the response was, where they don't care about people or infrastructure. So that is not my take, but that's the perception that sometimes gets out there. So just a side note. The other thing that caught me off guard the other night is working the anhydrous ammonia. Showed up on the job, we're getting ready to discharge a hazardous material, and the transit shed and the dock is full of contract workers. I had to make phone calls. We finally got them evacuated, but we have all these safety protocols, but no communication. So I don't want to end up on a down note. We love you, brother. We're going to miss you. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Gavin.
We appreciate those comments, and we'll obviously look into it. I think we've been more, on the infrastructure thing, we've been more committed to infrastructure, and our infrastructure budget's as aggressive as it has been in many, many years, so.
And we've addressed the other issue.
Yeah, we need to address whatever communication issue you mentioned as well.
Which we have.
Okay, good. Okay, any other comments? Okay, with that, we will go into closed session. Thank you.
Gary?
In 1845, when Charles Weber acquired a 49,000-acre parcel from his luckless business partner in exchange for paying off his grocery bill, he couldn't have anticipated what awaited him 3 years later.
During the gold rush, Argonauts could come to Stockton en route to what were known as the Southern Mines. But the principal artery for transportation and the fastest way to travel was via water.
There was no Stockton in those early days. There was Charles Weber's tent town on the San Joaquin River that served as a jumping-off point for the gold fields.
He realized that the San Joaquin River was going to be the principal aid in developing his city, and Charles Weber was able to attract enough business people to establish hotels and restaurants and freight companies, and they would cater to the wants and needs of the miners. Those who did not make their fortune, in many instances, had been farmers in their previous lives. And coming back into Stockton or Sacramento, took a look around the Central Valley and realized there was great agricultural potential.
We're in San Joaquin County. This is the most productive agricultural area really in the world. You grow corn, wheat, almonds, walnuts, fruit, a whole host of different commodities feeding the world. You couldn't have the unique agricultural environment we have without the river. That is what allowed this state to turn from a gold mining state, if you will, to a food state.
California's Central Valley is blessed with the best soil there is. Back then, the problem was less about growing the food than it was getting it to market. Without a statewide railroad system or even decent roads, Stockton was in a strategic position to be a hub, connecting the valley by river to San Francisco.
From gold rush days, riverboats carried passengers and cargo on a daily basis between Stockton, Sacramento, and San Francisco.
With the Central Pacific Railroad's completion of a branch line in 1869, connecting Stockton with the Transcontinental Railroad, the city's vision as a trade and transportation hub began to materialize, except for one critical issue.
There were rather tortuous waterways leading from San Francisco to Stockton, weaving and turning through the islands. And because of hydraulic mining, there was a lot of sedimentation of these river areas, and so it was becoming rather shallow.
In addition, ships were getting larger with deeper drafts, leaving the river's shallow depth a barrier to ocean-going vessels. If the region was going to grow with the times, it had to tame the twisting passage through the delta. Even though no single individual gets credit for proposing a dredged shipping channel, it was Lieutenant Colonel Barton Stone Alexander who drew up the plan in 1870 that showed it was feasible.
They kind of choked at the projected $8 million price tag of such a ship canal. And so it continued to be a festering problem for the city of Stockton, being cut off from that ocean-going transportation.
Other countries hungered for California products, not just grains, nuts, and cotton, but manufactured goods too. The opportunity for trade was undeniable.
When a product moves and how it moves is all dependent on where the destination is. The ship behind me is actually loading rice that's going to Japan. Rice would not be able to get to Japan if it didn't use port facilities, because it doesn't make economic sense to ship the kind of tonnage that one ship can hold in another way, like, say, maybe in an aircraft.
Stockton's residents remained convinced their future lay in a navigable ship channel. So in 1925, they passed a $3 million bond toward its construction. The state and feds later added more funds that finally set the project in motion. Work began in 1930. Dredges began removing millions of cubic yards of river bottom. Clamshell dredges piled the mud and rock to make levees that formed the new channel, opening acres of delta islands for farmland. Despite the Great Depression and Hitler's rise in Germany, in Stockton, church bells rang and automobile horns blared. It was 1933, and more than 1,000 people celebrated the arrival of the Daisy Gray, the first deep draft vessel to arrive at Stockton's new port using the new channel. It was the start of a new era.
The local responsibility was to develop the facilities. So they developed the docks, the warehousing, the rail connection, many of which we're actually still using today. In my opinion, rail facilities are just as important to the success of a port as a dock.
Central California Traction Company has been in business for more than 100 years. We are a small railroad that basically does all the railroad switching on the Port of Stockton, and we're going all day long. We get rail cars from two major railroads, Burlington Northern and Union Pacific, and we get those cars, separate them all out, take them to the customers, let them unload them or load them, and then take them back and give them to those Class 1 railroads. The port is a busy place, and they've got ships coming in, they've got trucks coming in, and if we didn't have the railroad here, you wouldn't be able to get enough trucks in over the road infrastructure that they have.
When the United States mobilized to fight in World War II, Stockton's port facility became an integral part of the war effort. The United States Army took over the Port of Stockton, and it became the largest vehicle and parts consignment center in the entire United States. The harbor overflowed with 10,000 workers, loading merchant vessels and assembling as many as 125 ships for the war effort, from tugs to minesweepers.
In 1944, the United States Navy took over what was known as Rough and Ready Island and turned it into a naval complex. And the Navy held on to this area up until the year 2000, when Rough and Ready Island and all of its developments were turned over to the Port of Stockton.
Rough and Ready Island tripled the size of the port overnight. It added warehousing and open land that the Port of Stockton never had before. The acquisition really helped us to be able to provide additional space for tenants to develop their own projects.
Yara North America chose this location for its central location in the valley. we were able to lease a piece of the land here and build this facility and move our operation from another location that was less profitable and less convenient, so to speak. Keeps us competitive, keeps our costs down, and keeps us profitable, which is really what we're all about.
The presence of global companies reflects the port's role in world commerce. Cargo crossing the docks has grown 176% in less than 10 years, making the Port of Stockton the fourth busiest port in California.
I've seen the port get extremely busy. I was working when there would be maybe one ship every 2-3 weeks. Now we have 2-3 ships every day coming in. It's just booming.
While the port is responsive to world markets and international trade trends, it's also tied to the local community with a responsibility to its neighbors.
Today, the port supports more than 10,000 jobs, what I like to call family wage jobs, to become a major part of the economic foundation of Stockton and the greater San Joaquin County area. The port actually makes a major contribution through tax revenues that go into every facet of every service that's provided by the city of Stockton or San Joaquin County.
The port absolutely is part of the community. The waterway is not just only our ship channel. It is part of the Delta, it is part of the Pacific Flyway, it is a recreation area, it is a fishery. One of the latest commitments the port has made is we have joined the Green Marine program. It looks at how ports and how maritime operations are being handled to reduce your impacts on the environment. At Antioch Dunes National Wildlife Refuge, we are working to restore the habitat for 3 species by placing sand material that comes out of our dredging each year. It's been an extremely successful project. The owls were here when we took over Rough and Ready. You know, the rodents like the burrow holes in our levees, and we use the owls, the Air Force, if you want to call them, to come in and reduce the rodent population. This wonderful group, Puentes, came to us, and they wanted to develop a community garden. And we thought it was a wonderful idea.
We belong to a church in Sacramento, and a lot of the people are elderly and are really in need. So we thought once we start harvesting, we'll go and bless people so that way the people that can't get out, they'll have their fresh veggies delivered right to them. The power of one little seed to help people live more sustainable lives. Yeah, that's our goal.
It could be asked, what's a maritime port got to do with community gardening? Or saving endangered species? Or running a tiny service railroad? Or any of a host of novel undertakings? It's being innovative. It's being responsive. It's being unique. But then, a bustling port 75 miles inland from the coast is unique. That's the Port of Stockton, cast in a different mold from its start as a gold rush depot upriver, doing what's needed to meet the challenges of its times, the responsibilities as a community leader, and embracing the prospects for a bright future.
Back in 2006, we started building and installing barn owl nest boxes to enhance the barn owl population here at the port.
We put cameras in the boxes, put the images up on our website. I think we had 40,000 hits on our website just on the owls in 1 month last year.
The public went absolutely crazy for it. We would post regular updates on the port's Facebook page, and we got many, many, many responses, lots of interested viewers. Absolutely beautiful animals. They've got a big white disc of their face that actually helps channel light and sound. So when they're out hunting at night, they are able to locate their prey. The islands here are all surrounded by levees. To maintain the integrity of those levees, it's pretty important that you keep rodents from burrowing and digging holes. These owls can eat up to 3,000 rodents in a single breeding season. So they're quite an effective method of rodent control. To our knowledge, we have increased the population quite a bit. This particular box behind me last year housed 7 owlets. They all survived to fledging, which is somewhat rare. A typical brood is more in the neighborhood of 4 or 5, but we have 16 of these boxes at the port, and so you do the math, there's a significant number of owlets being reared. I guess it's like the Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come, because they were here in short order, and this particular box has been in use every year since 2006.
The point of the Owl Box program is to reduce pesticide use, protect our levees, and in the meantime, now we've got a great project we can also share with the public that creates interaction.
The port wants to do everything they can to enhance the environment and support local wildlife.
In 1845, when Charles Weber acquired a 49,000-acre parcel from his luckless business partner in exchange for paying off his grocery bill, he couldn't have anticipated what awaited him 3 years later.
During the gold rush, Argonauts could come to Stockton en route to what were known as the southern mines. But the principal artery for transportation and the fastest way to travel was via water.
There was no Stockton in those early days. There was Charles Weber's tent town on the San Joaquin River that served as a jumping-off point for the gold fields.
He realized that the San Joaquin River was going to be the principal aid in developing his city, and Charles Weber was able to attract enough business people to establish hotels and restaurants and freight companies, and they would cater to the wants and needs of the miners. Those who did not make their fortune, in many instances, had been farmers in their previous lives. And coming back into Stockton or Sacramento, took a look around the Central Valley and realized there was great agricultural potential.
We're in San Joaquin County. This is the most productive agricultural area really in the world. You grow corn, wheat, almonds, walnuts, fruit, a whole host of different commodities feeding the world. You couldn't have the unique agricultural environment we have without the river. That is what allowed this state to turn from a gold mining state, if you will, to a food state.
California's Central Valley is blessed with the best soil there is. Back then, the problem was less about growing the food than it was getting it to market. Without a statewide railroad system or even decent roads, Stockton was in a strategic position to be a hub, connecting the valley by river to San Francisco.
From gold rush days, riverboats carried passengers and cargo on a daily basis between Stockton, Sacramento, and San Francisco.
With the Central Pacific Railroad's completion of a branch line in 1869, connecting Stockton with the Transcontinental Railroad, the city's vision as a trade and transportation hub began to materialize, except for one critical issue.
There were rather tortuous waterways leading from San Francisco to Stockton, weaving and turning through the islands. And because of hydraulic mining, there was a lot of sedimentation of these river areas, and so it was becoming rather shallow.
In addition, ships were getting larger with deeper drafts, leaving the river's shallow depth a barrier to ocean-going vessels. If the region was going to grow with the times, it had to tame the twisting passage through the delta. Even though no single individual gets credit for proposing a dredged shipping channel, it was Lieutenant Colonel Barton Stone Alexander who drew up the plan in 1870 that showed it was feasible.
They kind of choked at the projected $8 million price tag of such a ship canal. And so it continued to be a festering problem for the city of Stockton, being cut off from that ocean-going transportation.
Other countries hungered for California products, not just grains, nuts, and cotton, but manufactured goods too. The opportunity for trade was undeniable.
When a product moves and how it moves is all dependent on where the destination is. The ship behind me is actually loading rice that's going to Japan. Rice would not be able to get to Japan if it didn't use port facilities, because it doesn't make economic sense to ship the kind of tonnage that one ship can hold in another way, like say maybe in an aircraft.
Stockton's residents remained convinced their future lay in a navigable ship channel. So in 1925, they passed a $3 million bond toward its construction. The state and feds later added more funds that finally set the project in motion. Work began in 1930. Dredges began removing millions of cubic yards of river bottom. Clamshell dredges piled the mud and rock to make levees that formed the new channel, opening acres of delta islands for farmland. Despite the Great Depression and Hitler's rise in Germany, in Stockton, church bells rang and automobile horns blared. It was 1933, and more than 1,000 people celebrated the arrival of the Daisy Gray, the first deep draft vessel to arrive at Stockton's new port using the new channel. It was the start of a new era.
The local responsibility was to develop the facilities. So they developed the docks, the warehousing, the rail connection, many of which we're actually still using today. In my opinion, rail facilities are just as important to the success of a port as a dock.
Central California Traction Company has been in business for more than 100 years. We are a small railroad that basically does all the railroad switching on the Port of Stockton, and we're going all day long. We get rail cars from two major railroads, Burlington Northern and Union Pacific, and we get those cars, separate them all out, take them to the customers, let them unload them or load them, and then take them back and give them to those Class 1 railroads. The port is a busy place, and they've got ships coming in, they've got trucks coming in, and if we didn't have the railroad here, you wouldn't be able to get enough trucks in over the road infrastructure that they have.
When the United States mobilized to fight in World War II, Stockton's port facility became an integral part of the war effort. The United States Army took over the Port of Stockton, and it became the largest vehicle and parts consignment center in the entire United States. The harbor overflowed with 10,000 workers, loading merchant vessels and assembling as many as 125 ships for the war effort, from tugs to minesweepers.
In 1944, the United States Navy took over what was known as Rough and Ready Island and turned it into a naval complex. And the Navy held on to this area up until the year 2000, when Rough and Ready Island and all of its developments were turned over to the Port of Stockton.
Rough and Ready Island tripled the size of the port overnight. It added warehousing and open land that the Port of Stockton never had before. The acquisition really helped us to be able to provide additional space for tenants to develop their own projects.
Yara North America chose this location for its central location in the valley. We were able to lease a piece of the land here and build this facility and move our operation from another location that was less profitable and less convenient, so to speak. Keeps us competitive, keeps our costs down, and keeps us profitable, which is really what we're all about.
The presence of global companies reflects the port's role in world commerce. Cargo crossing the docks has grown 176% in less than 10 years, making the Port of Stockton the fourth busiest port in California.
I've seen the port get extremely busy. I was working when there would be maybe one ship every 2-3 weeks. Now we have 2-3 ships every day coming in. It's just booming.
While the port is responsive to world markets and international trade trends, it's also tied to the local community with a responsibility to its neighbors.
Today, the port supports more than 10,000 jobs, what I like to call family wage jobs, to become a major part of the economic foundation of Stockton and the greater San Joaquin County area. The port actually makes a major contribution through tax revenues that go into every facet of every service that's provided by the city of Stockton or San Joaquin County.
The port absolutely is part of the community. The waterway is not just only our ship channel. It is part of the Delta, it is part of the Pacific Flyway, it is a recreation area, it is a fishery. One of the latest commitments the port has made is we have joined the Green Marine program. It looks at how ports and how maritime operations are being handled to reduce your impacts on the environment. At Antioch Dunes National Wildlife Refuge, we are working to restore the habitat for 3 species by placing sand material that comes out of our dredging each year. It's been an extremely successful project. The owls were here when we took over Rough and Ready. You know, the rodents like to burrow holes in our levees, and we use the owls, the Air Force, if you want to call them, to come in and reduce the rodent population. This wonderful group, Puentes, came to us, and they wanted to develop a community garden. And we thought it was a wonderful idea.
We belong to a church in Sacramento, and a lot of the people are elderly and are really in need. So we thought once we start harvesting, we'll go and like bless people so that way the people that can't get out, they'll have their fresh veggies delivered right to them. The power of one little seed to help people live more sustainable lives. Yeah, that's our goal.
It could be asked, what's a maritime port got to do with community gardening, or saving endangered species, or running a tiny service railroad, or any of a host of novel undertakings? It's being innovative, it's being responsive, it's being unique. But then, a bustling port 75 miles inland from the coast is unique. That's the Port of Stockton, cast in a different mold from its start as a gold rush depot upriver, doing what's needed to meet the challenges of its times, the responsibilities as a community leader, and embracing the prospects for a bright future.
Back in 2006, we started building and installing barn owl nest boxes to enhance the barn owl population here at the port.
We put cameras in the boxes, put the images up on our website. I think we had 40,000 hits on our website just on the owls in 1 month last year.
The public went absolutely crazy for it. We would post regular updates on the port's Facebook page, and we got many, many, many responses, lots of interested viewers. Absolutely beautiful animals. They've got a big white disc of their face that actually helps channel light and sound. So when they're out hunting at night, they are able to locate their prey. The islands here are all surrounded by levees. To maintain the integrity of those levees, it's pretty important that you keep rodents from burrowing and digging holes. These owls can eat up to 3,000 rodents in a single breeding season. So they're quite an effective method of rodent control. To our knowledge, we have increased the population quite a bit. This particular box behind.
So that was a union deal he was talking about?
Okay, we're out of, so we can talk about that later. We're out of closed session, and before we adjourn,
Well, no, you have to announce that.
no reportable items.
Yes, thank you.
I'm learning. That's right. Just in time.
Sounds like you just, it sounds like you just, closing it out here.
Yeah. But before we do that, we want to take a nice picture with this. Kirk, you want to explain this? Yep. I can go on that.
Sure.
You know,
So-
Priest Lake, you could probably see
Yeah,
the
I could
moon
use
with
that
that
in
thing.
Idaho.
Awesome. This is a replica of a
find out where you are.
1922 sextant.
1920.
Wow.
1920 sextant.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
That's the only explanation I have on that.
Yeah, I could
Not like
explain
the-
it.
So you can always chart your course into the future, Gary.
Yes.
Harry, we're gonna give
Right?
you a
Put that on the
Sarah,
plaque.
but you got a
Charting
sextant.
your course into the future.
Technology has not
Commissioner.
changed, I don't think. Sexton's pretty similar.
That's early tech.
Quite an interesting.
Troglodyte tech.
And most of them don't know how to do it anymore.
That's pretty cool.
I don't see a book.
That is cool.
So he can learn. There's a YouTube.
There's an owner's manual in there.
Oh, go ahead.
somewhere.
I'll have time, I'll read it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's me, I look for the book.
You want to get in here, guys? Sure.
Can I come back and demonstrate it someday?
Wow, that's, I know, that is
That's really
impressive.
cool.
You know, mariners don't do this anymore.
No.
Turn it around, Gary.
Where?
You're right here in the middle. You're good. You're good.
Turn the thing so the brass should.
Ow!
Oh, you didn't use that finger anyway.
All right, here we go. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
That's very cool.
Gary.
That was cool.
Now we're adjourned.
Now we're adjourned.